a billionaire farmer married a waitress. Then she took over everything. The ballroom was buzzing with quiet anticipation as guests mingled under the warm glow of chandeliers. Jonathan, tall and impeccably dressed in a classic black tuxedo, stood near the entrance, eyes fixed on his bride. Grace, in a simple yet elegant ivory dress, moved through the room with an easy grace that belied her humble beginnings. Her smile was radiant, but it was the strength in her eyes that held everyone's attention. To the outside world, their union was unexpected. A billionaire farmer from Kansas marrying a waitress from a small-town diner. Jonathan, at 38, was the face behind sprawling acres of farmland and agricultural innovation, commanding respect and curiosity in equal measure. Grace, 29, had spent years working long shifts, serving coffee and pie, her dreams quietly tucked away beneath aprons and busy days. They met on a rainy afternoon at the diner where Grace worked. Jonathan, exhausted from endless meetings and farm crises, sought nothing more than a hot meal and a moment's peace. But when their eyes met across the counter, something shifted. She saw beyond the suit and wealth, and he saw the grit and heart that money couldn't buy. Their courtship wasn't without challenges. Friends questioned the mismatch. Whispers floated about her intentions, and the gossip tried to build walls between them. Is she really ready for his world? Some asked. Does he understand what he's getting into? Others wondered. Yet Jonathan was certain. Grace wasn't just a fleeting fancy. She was a force he never saw coming. Their wedding was a blend of rustic charm and refined elegance, a testament to their worlds colliding and merging. As they stepped into their new life together, no one could have predicted the real surprise waiting just beyond the ceremony. A transformation that would shake the foundations of Jonathan's empire and redefine what power truly meant. Tonight, as the celebrations settle and the night deepens, Grace prepares to take the reins. And the man who once held all the cards is about to discover that love and leadership can come from the most unexpected places. The moon hung low over the vast Kansas plains, casting silver light across endless fields of wheat swaying gently in the night breeze. The farmhouse stood proud and quiet, its wide porch glowing softly with amber lights that flickered like fireflies against the dark. Inside, the scent of fresh wood mingled with hints of vanilla from a nearby candle, creating an atmosphere both warm and intimate. Jonathan sat alone in the grand study, his fingers tracing the edge of a weathered leather-bound journal, notes from decades of farming success and hard lessons learned. His usually steady gaze was restless tonight, betraying a mix of anticipation and something deeper, an unspoken doubt that no amount of wealth or experience could silence. The farm was his kingdom, but now it felt like a stage waiting for a new act. Down the hall, Grace moved quietly through the kitchen, her hands steady as she poured a glass of wine. Her eyes sparkled with a quiet confidence, yet beneath the calm was a storm of determination. She had stepped out of the diner world and into a life that was both dazzling and daunting. Tonight was more than a celebration. It was the beginning of a transformation that only she fully understood. The house was alive with the soft murmur of voices and laughter from the rooms beyond, their closest friends and family sharing in the joy of the union. Yet in the hushed corners, where the light softened and shadows lengthened, the true weight of what lay ahead settled in. The contrast was sharp, the celebration's brightness against the fragile uncertainty of change. As Jonathan finally rose, smoothing his suit jacket, and Grace adjusted the delicate pearl necklace she'd worn for her grandmother, their paths converged at the grand staircase. Their eyes met, a silent exchange passing between them, a promise, a challenge, and an unspoken question of who would lead next in this unexpected partnership. It all began 6 months earlier on a gray, rain-soaked afternoon in a sleepy Midwestern town. Grace was wiping down tables at the Rusty Spoon Diner, the kind of place where everyone knew your name and stories were swapped over steaming mugs of coffee. Her days were long and unpredictable, juggling shifts, managing bills, and dreaming quietly of something more than flipping pancakes and pouring drinks. Jonathan had pulled into the diner that day, drenched from a sudden storm that swept across his farmland. His usual polished composure was replaced by exhaustion, and all he wanted was a hot meal and a moment to catch his breath. When Grace approached with a warm smile and a friendly voice, something inside him shifted. Their conversation started with small talk, a question about the weather, a comment on the storm, but quickly turned into something deeper. Jonathan found himself drawn to Grace's effortless charm and the way she listened, really listened, to his stories about the pressures of running a farm spanning thousands of acres. Grace, in turn, was intrigued by the man behind the success, a billionaire who wasn't just about numbers and deals, but who carried a quiet vulnerability beneath his confident exterior. Despite the spark, their worlds were vastly different. Jonathan's life was a whirlwind of board meetings, investor calls, and farm management, while Grace's revolved around the diner's clatter and the steady grind of everyday survival. Their first dates were punctuated by stolen moments: lunch, breaks, late-night phone calls, and weekend visits to the farm where Grace learned to drive tractors and handle cattle, far from her comfort zone, but eager to prove she belonged. Yet challenges soon surfaced. Friends whispered about the mismatch. How could a man of Jonathan's stature really understand a waitress from a small town? Some of Grace's co-workers warned her about getting involved with someone so out of her league. On Jonathan's side, business associates questioned his judgment, wondering if this was just a fleeting distraction. Even Jonathan's family had their doubts. His father, a stern man who built the farm empire with his bare hands, voiced concern over Grace's lack of pedigree and experience. "Is she ready for this life?" he asked one evening, his voice heavy with skepticism. Jonathan didn't hesitate. He saw in Grace not just a partner, but a force, someone who challenged him, grounded him, and made him want to be better. Through every whispered doubt and raised eyebrow, their bond only grew stronger. Grace wasn't asking for charity or fame. She was fighting to be seen as an equal. And Jonathan was learning to open his guarded heart to the unexpected, the imperfect, and the extraordinary. Their journey was just beginning, but neither could have predicted the storm and the triumphs that lay ahead. But as their relationship deepened, tension quietly crept in, not from malice, but from the pressure of two very different worlds colliding. Jonathan's business empire was vast and complicated, filled with expectations and unspoken rules. Grace, though fearless and determined, often felt like an outsider navigating a world she barely understood. There were moments when Jonathan's phone never seemed to leave his side. Urgent calls about land deals, negotiations with investors, and crisis management on the farm. Grace would watch from the sidelines, feeling the sting of loneliness even when she was right there beside him. She wondered if she was just a fleeting distraction from a life that would always demand more than she could give. Meanwhile, Jonathan wrestled with his own doubts. Could Grace really handle the scrutiny and pressure that came with being at his side? The subtle glances from business partners, the whispered questions about her background, the unspoken doubts from his own family. It all weighed heavily on him. He loved her fiercely but feared the sacrifices she'd have to make. Their arguments were never loud or cruel, but they carried the weight of frustration and misunderstanding. Grace wanted to prove she belonged, to show she was more than just the waitress. Jonathan, torn between his love and his responsibilities, sometimes retreated into silence, unsure how to bridge the gap. The distance grew in small, quiet ways. A missed dinner, a canceled weekend, a lingering look that spoke volumes. Neither wanted to admit the fear that maybe love alone wasn't enough. Yet beneath the doubt was a deep, unspoken hope that somehow, against all odds, they could rewrite the rules together. One evening, after a long day of meetings and farm inspections, Jonathan found Grace alone in the farmhouse kitchen, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion but shining with determination. The tension between them had been building for weeks, unspoken yet palpable. Jonathan hesitated, then sat down beside her, ready to confront the storm neither had dared face. Grace took a deep breath, her voice steady but trembling just enough to reveal the depth of her feelings. "Jonathan, I'm not just some girl from a small town you fell for on a whim. I want to be more than that. I want to help, to stand with you, to be part of this world. But I'm scared. Scared that no matter how hard I try, I'll never be enough." Jonathan's usual guarded expression softened. He reached out, taking her hand, his own voice low and raw. "Grace, I've built my life on control and certainty, but you've shown me what it means to take a risk, to trust someone completely. I've been scared too, scared of losing you, scared that I couldn't protect you from this world I live in." Tears welled in Grace's eyes, and for the first time, the walls between them crumbled. "I don't want your protection, Jonathan. I want your partnership. I want to fight beside you, not behind you." Jonathan nodded, a lump in his throat. "Then let's do it together. No more doubts, no more pretending. You're not alone anymore." In that moment, their vulnerabilities laid bare. The weight of all their fears and hopes collided in a raw, powerful connection. It wasn't just love, it was a promise, a pact to face everything, side by side, no matter the cost. From that night onward, everything changed. Jonathan and Grace began to move forward, not as two separate worlds clashing, but as a united force. The doubts and fears that had once shadowed their relationship slowly melted away, replaced by a deep, unconditional love that neither had ever experienced before. Grace stepped confidently into Jonathan's world, not to be molded by it, but to shape it with her own strength and vision. She wasn't just the waitress anymore. She was his equal partner, someone whose ideas and passions were respected and valued. Jonathan listened to her insights with newfound humility, realizing how much her fresh perspective breathed life into his empire. Their love became a sanctuary, a place where they could be vulnerable without fear of judgment. When Jonathan faced setbacks or hard decisions, Grace stood unwaveringly by his side, offering not just support, but fierce loyalty. And when Grace struggled with the immense pressure of their new life, Jonathan was there to remind her that she was never alone. Friends and family watched in awe as the couple grew stronger together, their bond defying every expectation. Jonathan's former skepticism dissolved completely, replaced by admiration for the woman who had not only captured his heart, but transformed his entire world. Love without condition became their foundation, the quiet but unbreakable truth beneath every challenge they faced. It was a love that accepted imperfections, embraced vulnerability, and celebrated strength in every form. No matter what storms came their way, Jonathan and Grace knew they had something rare and powerful, a love that didn't ask for anything, but to be lived fully, fiercely, and without apology. Months later, the world would come to know the power of Jonathan and Grace's partnership, not just as a couple, but as a force transforming the farming industry. At a major agricultural conference held in their hometown, Jonathan took the stage first, his usual confident demeanor softened by pride. Then, with a nod, he invited Grace forward. The crowd fell silent as Grace stepped into the spotlight, not as a waitress, but as a visionary entrepreneur in her own right. She spoke candidly about her journey, the challenges of stepping into a world so different from the one she'd known, and how love had been the catalyst for her transformation. Her voice, steady and passionate, carried the weight of every late night. Every sacrifice and every moment of doubt turned into strength. Jonathan watched from the side, eyes shining with admiration and gratitude. Together, they unveiled their new initiative, a groundbreaking program to empower small-town workers, farmers, and women to rise, just as Grace had. Their story wasn't just theirs anymore, it became a symbol of possibility for anyone daring, enough to dream beyond their circumstances. The media buzzed with headlines. Billionaire farmer and former waitress rewrite the rules of success. Love and leadership. The power couple changing agriculture, from serving tables to serving communities. But for Jonathan and Grace, the true victory wasn't in the applause or the spotlight. It was in knowing that their love had shattered every barrier, every expectation, and had built something lasting, rooted in trust, respect, and a shared vision. As the crowd cheered, Jonathan and Grace exchanged a glance filled with unspoken promises. Whatever came next, they would face it together, empowered, united, and unstoppable. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to smash that thumbs up and hit subscribe for more unforgettable, emotional, and viral true stories. We want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell us, where in the world are you watching from?